This week in 2018, Nick Foles and Doug Peterson brought the Lombardi Trophy home to Philadelphia. In a game that was dominated by offense and a Philly special, the Eagles defeated the New England Patriots by a score of 41-33. The game set an NFL record in total yards of offense, while also setting a record for the longest episode in Sports Talk Philadelphia history with a 58-minute special.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. I'm your host Josh Abrams. Today we're going to be talking some Flyers as their season progresses, as well as the Philadelphia 76ers. And here with me to talk Flyers today is Tyler Small, Jamie Smith, and Siobhan Nolan. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Let's get right into Flyers talk. They're on a bit of a hot streak now. They're 4-0-1 in their last 5 games. The one overtime loss was actually an overtime loss to Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, down 3-1, you come all the way back. I think that's sort of a testament now to how tough this Flyers team really is.
Yeah, I mean, they've really been able to dominate in the third period of these past couple of games. Just think about it. They were in a 0-0 tie going into the third, put up 2 quick goals against the Coyotes, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that's just big for them. But I think the number one attributor to that is since the All-Star break, they have come back with the highest percentage of puck possession and the lowest turnovers in the NHL. So they've really taken a more calmer approach to the game. They've really kept it in their zone for an extended period, and it's been a key to these comeback victories.
Yeah, I agree. I'd always say that Flyers are notorious for having a weak first period, but being able to come back in the second and third period. And I just feel like this season, especially, they've gotten more consistent. And I've said from day one, the Flyers are such an inconsistent team with wins and losses, where they could win to a top tier team but lose to someone who's in last place. But I feel like this year they've really kicked it in gear and gotten their stuff together, you know?
And especially against the Penguins, because that game was scrappy, as you would imagine, against the Penguins. But even though they were getting beat up on, they were taking all those hits, they didn't lose their faith, and they still managed to come back from that. They didn't let that get them down. So I think the spirit has returned, and I think that the fight is really back in them.
Yeah, and it's really a full team effort now because, and not that it never was, but we're still without Carter Hart, and we don't know when exactly he's going to be back. So with him gone, it's up to the old man, Brian Elliott. And he actually, as you see here, reached a milestone. He's been in the league for about 12, 13 years now, and he finally got to that 40th career shutout. It's not the biggest milestone out there, but I think that happening for him is even better for us, just because it goes to show that you at least have some sort of faith in the goaltending beyond Carter Hart.
Yeah, no, this is a huge sign for what could come in playoffs. I mean, depending on how the cards may be dealt. I mean, you're feeling really good going to your secondary guy. It could be anything between another injury to Hart, because it seems that this injury could be kind of a lingering one. So to see that is always a very ensuring thing. But also the way that, I think that I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but the way that they've kind of changed up their offensive style and kept it more calm and composed so that there's less breakout chances against him, because as you know, statistically, he's a lot worse on the fast break as opposed to just in a central zone or even against a power play for that matter. So just being able to have that confidence in your second guy is huge.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think that he really has stepped up. And when he first was on the team, I just kind of was iffy about it because he's older, and I feel like older players they're starting to break down more, and I just feel like he completely stepped up, and he's made the most wicked saves I've seen this season.
Mm-hmm. And even with the third goalkeeper choice, Matt Lyon, who we called it from Lehigh Valley, he's been great too. So even with Brian Elliott, and now we kind of can see that Matt Lyon is more and more reliable. You know, if this is a lingering injury that could play Carter Hart's career, now we know that we have guys that can step up and go in place for him.
So looking at the offensive side of things, it's pretty clear that we wouldn't be where we are right now without Travis Konechny. He was our lone All-Star this year. We knew from the jump that opening game in Prague against the Blackhawks, he got off to a hot start. But somebody else, more of a veteran presence on the team that we picked up was Kevin Hayes, and he has been absolutely on fire, especially on the shorthand. When we're down a man, it's, at least not just forget the offensive power that he brings on both ends. The fact that we're such a threat when we only have 4 guys on the ice, that's gotta be another factor in how good you guys feel about the team.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a gritty competitor, as you kind of mentioned earlier, because you see, for example, that shorthanded goal came off of, I think, 30 seconds beforehand. He was diving in front of a puck trying to get a block to help out his secondary goaltender in net. So he's a gamer. I mean, he really can get in there and grind. And just, you look at some of the numbers, for example, like with that goal, he tied Coots for the most on the team. But above that, I mean, his points total, because like for centers, you really don't see that as much, but you could easily credit him for at least 5 to 10 more assists because he was just one pass away or a couple seconds away, because he's really such a good puck distributor. He opens up the team so much more than you can imagine, and that you might see off first glance looking at his point total.
And I think with the breakout of Kevin Hayes, it shows that it's not just the Travis Konechny show anymore. In the beginning of the season, I think a lot of the reliance was on Konechny, but now Kevin Hayes is breaking out. Sean Couturier is breaking out more. Even people like JVR and Voracek. So I think Kevin Hayes is kind of leading the charge of opening up the team more and showing like we really have an offensive prowess, and it's not just look out for Konechny, it's look out for everyone else on the line too.
Right.
Yeah, he almost gives me some like old school like Ian LaPerriere vibes, where it's like he's laying down for the puck, but he's also handling it well and he's scoring, and he's the shorthanded goals, like that's just amazing.
Right, and you hope things don't turn out the way, or you hope things don't end the way things did for LaPerriere. But with that being said, let's look ahead at the upcoming schedule for the Flyers. They got a tough slate of games ahead of them, and that's just solely because of the Metro and the Eastern Conference in general being an absolute powerhouse. The Flyers are currently sitting at the second wild card, and in the past couple of years, my philosophy was that you make it in and you're going to get swept, or you're going to be lucky to win a couple games, and that was because of the coaching regime and everything else that was sitting behind the players. Now this year, I feel as if we make it in those same circumstances, we actually have a legit shot to make noise and upset teams as a lower seed. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I just feel like Flyers usually in like past years, like they play down to like other teams' levels, and like that's something that we can't do, because like we need to start winning these games. And I just feel like more and more this season, like we were able to beat the 4 top teams in the NHL in a row. Like, and I think now like we're starting to like play to our own level instead of playing down to these other teams.
Yeah, and I don't think that we're going to pull a Toronto Maple Leafs and get in the playoffs and then exit in the first round. I think that there's a lot of just underappreciated talent in this Flyers team, and people still don't recognize that. Other teams, I think, are still going in there thinking that we don't have what it takes to really beat teams, but like Jamie said, we've beaten some of the top teams and we've played up to them and we've proven that we can run with them. So I think if we do make it into the playoffs, which we have a good chance of doing, it could spell a pretty positive run for us. Yeah,
and you're 100% right, because this upcoming slate of games is going to be difficult, but I think above all else, it's just big because that's who you're going to be playing if you do get into the playoffs. I mean, even if you bump up to the number 1 wild card, you're still going to be on the road for a majority of those series. You're still going to be having to travel and having to face some of the top competition. And we know that they can handle with them, and it depends on who they're matched up against. So if they are, for example, playing up to their competition, then they'll have a good job of it come playoff time.
Exactly. Like we can't lose to the Capitals because they're the Capitals. Like,
Exactly.
like we have to beat them because we're better than them.
And we can. We've proven before that we can.
We've shown that we've been able to do it before, and it's professional sports. So we're going to come into games against teams like, I don't know, Buffalo or New Jersey, or the bottom tier teams in the league. We're going to, I think as fans, we're going to expect the Flyers to win pretty easily. But I think it's also pretty important to remember that these guys are professionals. They're going to go out and give it their all. then it sounds very cliche, but like they can't get ahead of themselves. And I think with Elaine Vigneault, I don't think there's any fear of that happening. What do you think?
No, of course not. Especially, and as you mentioned it, like it really does come down to the simplicity of you only got to win one road game. Just to swing home ice back to yourself. I mean, the Flyers have been so much better at Wells Fargo than anywhere else. And obviously, it's been a lot better this season on the road than in years past, especially when you get to some of those long road trips that they've had. I mean, we can talk all day about how they started the season having to travel over like 3,000 miles. So it's really big on that, just to kind of condition themselves to life on the road. But again, just having with their new coaching staff and being able to play so dominant at home is huge.
Yeah, and again, having Elaine Vigneault behind the bench, an experienced coach who's been to multiple Stanley Cups, who knows what it takes to make a long run into the playoffs, you have to I feel better about the team's chances in the playoffs this year than I did in years past.
Right.
One more player I wanted to talk about before we go to break was the young guy. This Flyers team is so interesting because we have a group of veterans, but we have a very large slate of young guys, and one of them is Joel Farabee. Talk about him real quick, guys.
Joel Farabee deserves to be in running for the Calder. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Jack Hughes is having a terrible season. Cale Mocker, is that how you say his name, that plays for the Avs? He's not living up to Joel Farabee. Quinn Hughes maybe, but he's a defenseman, so you can't really compare them. But Joel Farabee is so underrated, and his talent is so underappreciated. You know, he got 2 goals in the Red Wings game, I believe, and just the way that he plays for a guy that's 20 years old, you know, our age, in college, and he's putting up these amazing numbers. He's integrated himself fully into this Flyers team. You'd think he's been here for years. And I think that needs to be appreciated more. And I love that he's continuing to play up to that, even though he's not getting as much recognition as, say, the Hughes brothers or Mock or any of the other like big draft picks in years past.
Makes you wonder why I didn't even start the season in Philly.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
really proved us wrong.
I didn't even realize that. So I mean, I think Elaine Vigneault is going to take notice of that.
Oh yeah.
He'll be contributing like he normally does. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of Flyers Talk. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Sixers. So stay tuned. Oh, I didn't know we were going to.
You know you watch. You shouldn't be watching this. You should be watching LaSalle TV. Hey, watch LaSalle TV.
You know you watch.
Man, Keegan's taking this you know you watch thing way too seriously.
You know you watch LaSalle TV.
God, I swear, these sports show hosts just get dumber and dumber as time goes on. Like, I can't believe people are actually paid money, real money, more than what I make at my job to say this stupid stuff. Like, I can't believe this crap. Oh my gosh. I'm about to lose it. I'm about to lose it. Like, this is just, how can they even, like...
Hey, what you doing?
This stupid sports show. These people have no idea how the game of basketball is played. Not at all.
Hey, you're not you when you don't watch LaSalle TV. Here, let me show you.
Have much more left, but the only reason why for everyone else it's a 1-year rent. But Talk Philadelphia here on the South TV. I'm your host, all that coach.
Feel better now?
Better.
You're not you when you're not watching LaSalle TV. To stay up to date, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
step off for Sixers Talk, and they are replaced by Tori Walker. Tori, thank you for joining us.
Welcome, no problem.
And, you know, this really starting to irritate me because every time I introduce Sixers Talk, it's always going to depend on how I feel about the team at the time. Right now, it's not. Yeah. Things are not good right now. You know, forget the wins and losses. Forget the poor shooting. They have locker room issues now. The press conference the other day, media day in Milwaukee, the players, Horford, Simmons, Embiid, they all hinted ever so slightly at a possible turmoil situation in the locker room. It's not that bad. I think some people are going to be overreacting to it. But with that being said, and all that has happened in the past couple of weeks, where do you guys stand right now with the Philadelphia 76ers? Are you on the same boat as me? Like, are you as, you know, irritated as I am?
I'm going to go a little bit away from you and say that I think that this locker room thing is a bigger deal than I think you're making it out to be.
Okay.
Because, I mean, besides like the obvious lack of chemistry you can see on the court, right. For Al Horford to come out and say something like that, a very quiet guy, a very fundamental-based guy, for him to come out and kind of hint at it first, as opposed to Embiid, who's a spitfire, as opposed to Simmons, who's saying that they're all too soft, including himself, which I'm glad that he did.
Right.
I think that means that he might be downplaying it, but so much to the point that he can't keep it silent, which is crazy to think that he played a year with Kyrie Irving and didn't say anything about it. So the fact that he thinks that playing with this team is worth bringing out to the public as opposed to playing with Kyrie, and we really didn't say anything, that's a big deal to me.
What do you make of all of this, Tori?
I'm irritated. I think like we don't have a leader on our team, and like every NBA team, you know, they need a leader to like succeed in the NBA. So like, I mean, with Embiid and Simmons, they're not really playing to our expectations, I would say. And like Embiid, he's just like the same these past couple of years. Like no improvement on my end. So I mean, I don't know. It's irritating. It's annoying.
You're right, and he's become complacent because I mean, the center is such a weak position right now, especially for the true center that he really is. So the fact that he's become complacent at what his current form is, as opposed to I'd say he's a year or two away from being in his prime, the prime of his career, and he really has made no strides. So you're 100% right.
I think we listed off the names that we think are contributing to this locker room problem. The one name we didn't talk about who really controls this entire thing is Brett Brown. And we've been very critical of him. You know, it's not that we don't like him. We just don't like the way he coaches. I mean, it's just the way it is. The personalities are going to come into play here, and I think that's where the bridge is drawn. But I think with the way Brett is with his personality and how friendly he is with the players, and how it translates onto the court, I don't see him being a part of the Sixers' future much longer.
I'll disagree with that a little bit, just because I think that you kind of need someone like that. The NBA, different than all other leagues, is so player-run, so player-driven that you need a player's coach just to continue to have a job. I mean, the number one example I'll bring is the best team in basketball, the Lakers. Their head coach isn't really even their head coach. It's really just for Jason Kidd. Frank Vogel's just a face. And above all else, even when Jason Kidd goes over and takes that spot, LeBron's the coach. So I think it's more what Tori said, the fact that it needs to be someone stepping up. Because last year, whether we like to admit it or not, Jimmy Butler was that guy. He was the big shots guy. He was the leader guy. He kept them all together. He was a glue guy while he was also a leader, as he's shown in Miami. And the Sixers weren't able to give him what he wanted. They weren't able to show that he would be who this organization's built around. And now they're paying for it because the Heat are about to have a way better chance right now of making the Eastern Conference Finals than the 76ers do.
I would have to disagree with you. I think with the Sixers, the amount of talent we have on this team, we should be like better than we are right now.
Obviously.
So like with Brett Brown, it's just kind of weird because like, what is he doing that's not succeeding for us to win games?
I legitimately thought coming into this season that the team that Elton Brand constructed, the moves that he made in the offseason, would compile into a defensive-minded first bully team, bully on both ends of the floor, that would pertain to Brett Brown's coaching needs, I guess. I always view Brett Brown as a defensive-minded coach, and I thought this was the perfect team for him. So I just don't know. It's the shooting, it's the coach himself. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's just very hard to pinpoint one thing.
You're right, and I think that Brett Brown has made an impact on this defensive side. I mean, Embiid does always put up blocking numbers, which, as he should, it could be better. But Simmons has become relatively a lockdown defender, especially for his size, which is amazing that he can keep up with point guards.
Yeah, right.
And just above all else, like he's really put them together as a unit. And then bringing in a guy like Al Horford, you think would be a dream for him, but then you also see that there might not be meshing as well. So it's really, I would love to be a fly on the wall in there just to see exactly what's said, but we never will be.
In my opinion, I think Brett Brown is still on the Spurs mentality, and this is the Sixers. We don't have a Tim Duncan. You know, we have a Joel Embiid who's probably better than Tim Duncan. I don't know, but I mean, it's just we need to move past that. It's the Sixers, you know, and let's succeed, in my opinion.
Sure.
And above all else, if you're going to compare them to the Spurs, they also don't have a Danny Green.
Exactly, yeah.
Or Tony Parker.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying to at least stretch the court because, I mean, you look at their numbers, they have the 3rd lowest efficient field goal percentage and the 4th lowest three-point field goal percentage. And hopefully when we get to the trades in a little bit, we'll be able to open up the court a little bit. But they're not going to be able to run a Spurs kind of team if they have only paint players.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about the trades now because we do have a little bit to talk about with that. And most recently, in the last 12 hours, 16 hours, the Sixers finally made moves. We weren't sure if they were going to do anything at the trade deadline. You see on the screen here, we get Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson III from Golden State in exchange for those 3 second-round picks. And then we get a second-round pick in, I'm not sure what draft it is, but it's a future draft. Yeah. And we got that from the Magic in exchange for James Ennis. So the team's finally making moves, nothing blockbuster or anything. But at this point in time right now, what is your guys' thoughts on the move, especially the Glenn Robinson and Alec Burks move? What was your thoughts on that?
It's a start. I'm not satisfied with those people that's on there, but like we hope that they can provide help for our team. To be honest.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, I love Burks and Robinson. I mean, Burks comes into this averaging 16 and a half. He's got a lot of time to play with this Warriors team, who's just whoever wants to take the court right now, you're welcome on the team. So Burks averaging 16, Robinson averaging 13. They both have an efficient field goal percentage over 48%, which is huge. And from 3, they're both knocking it down at a clip of like 37%. So that's big for those two. But so just to hopefully get some shooting in there. But I love the way that he kind of constructed this because he goes for shooters now to show that we are trying to win this season. Sure. But at the same time, he still manages to get some picks back to get rid of James Ennis, which really I don't think anyone's going to be complaining about. So he's not ruining us for the future because we at least got 1 draft pick back. So it's only 2 second-rounders for some pretty significant talent.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the fact that we were able to – we had to make a move to get rid of Ennis because of the roster space. Yeah. So that kind of made sense. Of
course.
But looking at the standings real quick before we move on to Fast 5, we're obviously not where we want to be right now. We've been sitting at sixth place for how long now? I mean, it almost feels like since the semester started, we've been sitting down at 6th. These are the standings right now. The East is stacked, and not that the Western Conference isn't stacked. Yeah. But looking at what goes through your head when you see that? Like, do you have hope that we can move our way up?
It's diminishing hope because, I mean, you look at the team right above us, the Pacers. They just got Oladipo back, and in his first game back, he looked just as good as he did before the injury. So that hurts. I mean, the Celtics have really figured it out, and Kemba Walker's been leading the charge there. The Raptors are still surprisingly good behind Pascal Siakam. Everyone's trending up, and the Sixers are trending down right now. So
I feel like it's still anyone's game. Sixers, they still have more to improve on to get the top spot in the East. But it's just a matter of time, with people we have now on our team. I don't know, I'm optimistic, to be honest.
Right, like the core pretty much stayed the same. Mm-hmm. We obviously made the move for the shooters and everything, but when you keep the core the same and you don't make much more moves to improve your starting 5 or your 6th man or your rotation guys coming right off the bench, it is very hard to believe that something will turn around. And that's another big point. It's like people think the Sixers can just flip the switch like they would for the playoffs, but they just can't. It's pretty much proven at this point. So that's going to do it for Sixers Talk. Let's move on to Fast 5. And Tyler, we're going to start with you. Chiefs win their first Super Bowl in 50 years, and their Super Bowl MVP is Patrick Mahomes. Do you agree with Pat Mahomes getting the nod at Super Bowl MVP?
He led the charge back, but I thought that Damian Williams should have got that. I mean, 2 touchdowns. He had 17 attempts for 104 yards, 6.4 yards per attempt, and he picked up 8 catches in that game. And the biggest stat I think I saw was he had 8 touches, which resulted in a first down, 5 of them coming on 3rd down. He saved a lot of drives just making something out of nothing. And just to throw it in there, I'm really happy for Andy Reid getting the ring.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty happy for him. Tori, let's come to you with an NBA question. D'Angelo Russell just got traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Andrew Wiggins and a pick or something along those lines. Great players, but horrible teams. What's your thought on that?
I don't know, because I really like D'Angelo Russell on the Warriors. I felt like he was doing great on their team, and we didn't really get to see Steph and D'Angelo play together that well. So and we bring in Andrew Wiggins, I guess it will be succeeding for next season, to be honest, with Clay coming back in.
All right, Tyler, Mookie Betts just got traded along with his teammate David Price to the Dodgers in exchange for whatever they gave up for him. Just give me your thoughts on that. What was going through your head when you saw that?
So what I'll kind of break down into it was first, I don't think they're getting enough coverage on this because Mookie Betts getting traded in his prime is as big as A-Rod to the Yankees was back in the day. But I think the Red Sox really did not get a big haul for this because they also gave up David Price, which is just getting some money off of their plate so that they could open up free agency next year. But he's 170 innings still waiting to be pitched. So they got Alex Verdugo and a couple other pitching prospects. Verdugo's going to be big, but don't be surprised if they pull a Chapman deal a couple years ago and get Mookie Betts at the end of this season in free agency.
All right, well, we'll see what happens with that. Tori, is Milwaukee, the Bucks, are they legit coming out of the East?
Man, I feel like they are. With Miami and Indiana, I feel like that's going to give them a run for their money. So it's going to be nice.
All right, Tyler, last but not least, real quick, college basketball is absolutely insane. How do you look at this season right now?
No idea what to expect in March. I mean, just quick stats. 28 top 10 teams have lost to unranked opponents. 17 teams have been ranked inside the top 10. And 6 teams that were once ranked inside the top 10 this season are now unranked. It's unreal.
Inside the top 10?
Inside the top 10 are now completely unranked outside the top 25. It's unpredictable. Get ready for March.
Yeah, good luck filling out your brackets this year. It's bad every year, but this year's even worse. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Sports Talk Philly. You can catch us on social media, on Twitter at Sports Talk LTV. Make sure you visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/SportsTalkPhiladelphia, and check us out on YouTube, where you can also find the other episodes of LaSalle TV shows. We hope you enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week. All right.
Yeah, there we go.